If you're drinking too much during your divorce, there's one thing you need to know. Alcohol is not your problem. In fact, alcohol is the solution to your problem. And if me saying that upsets you, if you're like, no, alcohol is the problem and I'm alcoholic and I need to not be touching alcohol, honestly, you might need to hear this more than anyone else. Your problem is the unbearable emotional pain you're experiencing. Alcohol is just the thing that helps you survive it day to day. You can force yourself to stop drinking, a lot of people do. But if you don't deal with that pain, if you don't find a way to lessen that pain and make it manageable, you're just gonna end up either addicted to something else, whether it's food or work, or I've even seen people transfer an alcohol addiction to a religious fanaticism and addiction. You're either going to end up with another addiction or you're going to end up in depression as your brain tries to protect you, tries to numb out the pain. And that's dangerous too. In fact, for men going through a divorce, suicide is a massive risk. In some ways, getting depressed might be even more dangerous to you than drinking. I want to be clear, I actually really like a lot of things about Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of my clients have used it. It's been a huge resource. I think the combination of what is taught through it, plus the community and the amount of support it gives are incredible. It's obviously saved thousands, hundreds of thousands maybe of lives. But it doesn't work for everyone, and it doesn't work for every situation. So in this video, I'm going to give you an alternative, a practice you can use that will help you if you find that you're drinking too much during a divorce. If you're new to my YouTube channel, I'm Rachael Sloan. I'm a life coach and a master NLP practitioner, and I run a program called Better Beyond Divorce. It's a divorce recovery program for men. I've had the great honor of working with hundreds of men, helping them move out of depression, despair, hopelessness, overwhelm, anger, into healthier places, feeling good, calm, strong, peaceful, confident, dating again, finding their purpose and identity, moving forward with their lives. In every single case, in every single example I could give you, the key to that transformation has been emotional regulation. So many of our problems, mine included, stem from us never learning to regulate our emotions. It's not something that we're generally taught as children. And yet everything from our addictions to the poor communication to the kinds of bad conflict resolution skills that lead to divorce, all of it stems from a lack of emotional regulation, from the inability to choose how we respond when we're triggered into a strong emotional state. With drinking, it's pretty straightforward how it interacts with emotional regulation. You are in an incredible amount of pain, an overwhelming, unbearable amount of pain, and you drink and the pain gets better. You get to forget for a time the betrayal, the hurt, the regret, the resentment, the loss. Right? You feel better for a time. No wonder people drink after divorce. Unfortunately, it isn't a great solution. There's a lot of terrible side effects, and it can actually really derail your life and make things harder, which brings up more painful emotions, which leads to more drinking, and you get stuck in this really negative cycle where you're drinking more to numb the pain, but that causes you to mess up at work, to damage your other relationships, leaving you more isolated, more alone with more problems to solve that you don't know how to solve, and so more drinking, and you can see how it goes. So I am proposing an alternative solution, and here it is. Choose a simple emotional regulation exercise, and I'll give you a couple to choose from here in a moment, and do it every time you feel the urge to have a drink. Now, there's something that's really key here. You have to do this in the moment, and you have to be nice to yourself. So it looks like this. You pick one of these exercises. When you feel the urge for a drink, you're reaching for a beer or for the vodka or whatever it is, stop right then in that moment when you have the urge and spend 2 full minutes in one of these emotional regulation exercises. 2 minutes, no longer, no shorter, 2 minutes. When you're done, check in with yourself. Do you still want the drink? If you do, have it. Do not deny yourself that drink if you still want it after you do the emotional regulation exercise, because if you do, all you're doing is starting a fight with yourself. If you try to stop yourself, you're gonna have this internal conflict where part of you is like, no, we need that, we don't feel good, this is gonna help. Another part's like, no, it's not good, you need to be stronger than that. You've created this internal conflict, and whatever happens, whether you resist the drink or you go and have it, that argument is gonna escalate, right? If you resist, you're gonna be wanting it and resisting and wanting it and resisting it. If you have it, you're gonna have it and feel better, but then you're gonna be shaming and judging yourself for it. Both of those scenarios create a whole bunch more emotional turmoil for you. And that's why you're drinking in the first place, to deal with the emotional pain. So do not create more of it for yourself. Do the emotional regulation exercise. It's addressing the underlying issue. If you still want the drink, have the drink and don't beat yourself up for it. The time you want a next drink, do the exercise again. Every single time, every single drink, do the emotional regulation exercise. Do it consistently. In the beginning, you'll probably find you still have a lot of drinks. The more you do it, the more it will start to work. Your nervous system will calm down and rebalance. The emotions that were overwhelming will start to feel more manageable. And you'll find, again, over time, as you do this consistently, that you don't need the drink anymore, that sometimes you don't even want it. And then you move on and you do something else. But you've done it without creating all of this extra internal drama and pain that is going to drive you to need more coping mechanisms like drinking. The goal here is to treat the problem, which is the painful and overwhelming emotion, instead of just trying to manage the symptoms, which is the drinking. All right, so what should you actually do during those 2 minutes? I've actually made an entire video on this. I'm gonna give you some exercises in this one too. But the other video I've made is the Divorce Survival Guide, and it lists 9 different emotional stages that I see a lot of men going through during divorce. It helps you pinpoint which stage you're in and then gives you exercises specific to that stage. So if you've got a little bit of time, I'd encourage you to go ahead and watch that video, and you can even download the survival guide, and it'll give you some really concrete exercises that will work based on which emotional stage you're at. In this video, I'm going to give you 2 kind of generic exercises that work really well regardless of where you're at. I'm going to warn you, these exercises are going to seem too simple. Your brain's going to be like, that's silly. That's not going to work. She has no idea what I'm dealing with. It is so much more intense, so much more complex. This is bullshit. Be prepared for that. Expect it. Do it anyway. Choose one of these exercises. Do it for a full week. Every time you want to drink, do the exercise. If you still want it, have the drink. For a full week before you let your brain rule that these exercises are silly or stupid. Because what we're doing here, these exercises are designed to stimulate the medial prefrontal cortex. It's a part of our brains that we don't use very much, but it has direct neural connections to the limbic system, which makes it really, really good for regulating emotions. So, be prepared to want to reject these exercises, and I sincerely hope that you'll give them a try anyway. Because when you do, they will slowly but surely expand your brain's window of tolerance for what you're feeling, and so you'll start to have less of a fight or flight reaction to your own emotions. Okay, the first exercise is one you might be familiar with. It's called box breathing. It's where you inhale for a count of 4, hold your breath on the inhale for 4 more, exhale for a count of 4, hold it out for 4. You have to do this at least 3 times for it to be effective. If you do it for the 2 minutes, you'll be fine. You'll get at least 3 rounds in. You'll probably do more like 5. This technique, I'll tell you a couple of things about it. One is that our breath is the fastest way we have to access our nervous system. Most of what happens in our nervous system, getting activated into fight or flight, getting shut down into freeze, is autonomic. It happens without our conscious say, without our conscious awareness, without our control. It just happens. It's like digesting our food. We can't do anything about it. Our breathing directly impacts the nervous system. So when we slow down our breathing, particularly our exhales, we slow down our nervous system, and we can move ourselves out of that activated state into a state of calm. And if you think that box breathing is bullshit, or that a breathing exercise isn't good enough, you should know that this is one that was made famous by a Navy SEAL who swears that this is the thing that enabled him to do his job. When he was going on a mission, when he was about to do something horrible, like jump into a freezing cold ocean miles from shore, or go somewhere really dangerous, this is the exercise that he did to regulate his nervous system to allow him to perform at the highest level. So if it's good enough for a Navy SEAL, it's going to be good enough for the fight or flight response that's coming up for you around this divorce and your emotions there. So box breathing is a great exercise to try. The other one's even simpler, but in some ways it's harder because it gives you less to do. So the other one is to directly observe the physical sensations of your emotion. So here's what it looks like. I'm craving a drink. So I'm going to reach for that beer and I'm like, oh wait, yep, 2 minutes of exercise. So I stop. Maybe I look down into my body or I close my eyes. And for those 2 minutes, I'm just gonna notice, what do I feel? Where do I feel it? Maybe I have tension and pressure in the front of my head. Maybe my throat is tight. Maybe there's a knot in my chest or twisting in my stomach. Notice the sensations in your body. Maybe you describe them to yourself. Notice where the sensation stops, right? There's pressure in my head. Well, how far around does it go? Does it go to my temples? Is it actually the whole top of my head? Is it just right here in the front? Where is the sensation the most intense? Is there movement? Is there pressure? Does it change? Is there a temperature? You just watch it. You don't do anything. You don't try to stop it. You don't tell yourself a story about it. You don't judge it. You don't listen to it. You just watch it and notice what's happening in my body. Sounds simple. It's harder than it sounds, especially if you haven't done this kind of mindfulness work before. But what that is doing is activating that medial prefrontal cortex. It's the part of the brain that's responsible for conscious awareness. So noticing, what do I feel? Where do I feel it? How do I know? And it talks to the limbic system. So as I watch and witness my emotions, the limbic system is getting calming messages from that part of my brain. So much like the box breathing, it starts to move me out of fight or flight into a calmer state. And when I get there, I might find that I actually don't need that drink, because that's what the drink was going to do for me, right? It was going to relax me. It was going to help me unwind, take my mind off what was going on. Well, if I can help my nervous system get there without the drink, I'm not going to have such a need for it. So guys, these are some really good starting points. I would encourage you to try both of these exercises. Don't do them at the same time. Pick one, box breathing or this direct observation of your emotions, and commit to doing it for 1 week. So every time you want to drink, you're going to go and do one of these exercises. Do it as an experiment for a week and see what happens. Then I'd encourage you to hop over to that other video, the Divorce Survival Guide, and go ahead and read through it. It's got so many other exercises and tools that are going to help you work with your nervous system specific to the stage of divorce that you're in emotionally, and give you some really great tools to work through that. All right, I hope this was helpful. Leave me a note in the comments, and I will see you guys over in the Divorce Survival Guide.